I kind of swear by three things here. One is very, very clear communication. Have very clear communication and keep it consistent. Keep the channels open at all times. Encourage a very open dialogue. Write a press release from the customer's perspective.
Okay.
It really means to shift your lens, walk towards the side of the customer and say, hey, this is how it really looks like, right? So that very practice of literally writing a PR FAQ, Asia, what's happening in Europe, are there any regulations which are developing which can impact, what we do from a social media strategy point of view and other, many other things. So reading, absolutely number one priority for me. Number two is active networking. So I do regularly meet a lot of people, both within the organization and outside the organization.
Okay. Welcome to Icons Behind Brands. Hi, I'm your host, Devlina Yogi, and I'm thrilled to present our next guest for today, Ms. Richa Khera, who is a global social media director at Schneider Electric, with an impressive career history including stints at Amazon, KFC, OLX. Richa's insights into digital strategy, brand marketing are unmatched. So join us as we delve into her journey from beloved brands to global leadership at Schneider Electric. A very warm welcome to you, Richa, on Icons Behind Brands.
Thank you so much, Devina. Wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Really looking forward to this conversation today.
I would love to know about a little more about your professional journey from your side, and how did you transition through roles in different industries like e-commerce, retail, consumer internet, and ad tech before joining Schneider Electric.
So it's been a very interesting 15-year journey, and needless to say, it's been a very rich sort of a journey. It's been full of diverse experiences, right? Across industries, across many roles. And honestly, when I look back, some of these are deliberate shifts. And some of these were, okay, let's go with the flow kind of moments, right? So it's been a mix of, but now when I look back, it certainly feels pretty amazing. And the one thing that's really kept me going is the fact that, your career is a marathon and not a sprint, right? So just enjoy the journey. That's something that kept me going. So I started in the really early days of digital marketing back in 2010 with AdTech. I spent a couple of years there before I moved on to OLX to take on a role in performance marketing. And I later moved on to a brand which is very, very close to my heart, KFC, such a love brand. I started working on e-commerce for food channels and managing marketplace partnerships with food aggregators, which is Swiggy and Zomato. And then later taking on the role of leading the full digital charter in CRM. So overall, it's great learning curve. I had a wonderful time there. And we did many, first or, like the first time things, so for example, right, some launching a new product purely on digital, to launching our first co-branded campaign with Swiggy and Zomato. It was a very, very interesting time, that I had there. And later I moved on to Amazon, where I also shifted cities, moved from Delhi, which is which is where I was born. Worked pretty much most of my life in Delhi, but then I moved to Bangalore a couple of years back with Amazon. And then I got to a very interesting role of leading marketing for Amazon Global Selling. Amazon Global Selling actually is the B2B exports program for Amazon, which is for sellers who actually want to export to Amazon marketplaces and the US, UK, all other marketplaces. So that's what brought me to Bangalore, and I currently am at Schneider Electric, and I head the social media team, globally for the organization. So the common thread across these shifts, has really been the desire to grow.
How do you, how have you worked leading a multicultural team across APAC, Europe, and US market must be a very different challenge for you. So how do you foster collaboration, trust, and teamwork within your, different team members?
Large organizations like ours, culture really is a summation of many micro cultures, because you have multiple teams, you have multiple business units. There are so many priorities going on at the same time. So where do you really start? How do you get a team together? So to me, it really starts with creating a common vision for your own team. Now, sure, the organization has its own culture. There is a larger vision. It also has its own purpose. But how does this specific team fit into the grand scheme of things? I think to me that's a very, very important one. And it's very important to articulate that to your own team so that everybody understands it the same way. And they don't interpret it differently, right? So that's really your purpose of existing in the organization.
Correct.
So that's part of it. I kind of swear by three things here. One is very, very clear communication. Have very clear communication and keep it consistent. Keep the channels open at all times. Encourage a very open dialogue. And like I said, I have team which sits in different time zones as well, right? But we all connect in a way that we're physically sitting in probably a single place, and that's just a function of the fact that they all feel safe in a place together. Now, so number one, like I said, very clear communication and consistency. Secondly, I would say just empower your team as much as you can, right? Be a coach, trust them to do the right thing, and appreciate them openly. And the third one, I think, is feedback, which is a two-way street. Give regular feedback and also solicit feedback. So super important, to keep the dialogue going both ways, right? So that's what fosters a lot of trust. And like I said, it's super important to have a place where the team feels very, very safe to operate, right? Now, keeping all this in mind, what does really the output look like? This that becomes a team which communicates well, is not afraid to speak up their mind, is not afraid to ask for help when needed. It's a team which has each other's back and loves to take on new initiatives.
So moving from a leading role like, marketing function for Amazon Global Selling in India to being the global social media director at Schneider Electric is an interesting shift, right? So how did you experience that? How do you feel that Amazon influenced your approach to marketing at Schneider Electric?
Now, pretty much all your decisions or day-to-day working in Amazon are driven by the leadership principles. And those are, a lot of people might know this already. So customer obsession, ownership, the ability to invent and simplify, the ability to think big and insist on high standards. So there are actually a list of like 16 leadership principles which guides a lot of the method and the decision making there. Now, at the very core of this is customer obsession. Okay, and this is really the heart of how all decisions are made typically. Now, how do you think customer backwards? Amazon has a very interesting way of writing PR FAQs. So at any point in time, the first thing we would start doing is write a press release from the customer's perspective.
Okay.
Which really means to shift your lens, walk towards the side of the customer and say, hey, this is how it really looks like, right? So that very practice of literally writing a PR FAQ is a very, very good exercise. The amount of clarity it brings to any project, any team is amazing. So, I think, like I said, that's really the heart of where it all starts. And I think now that's very deeply ingrained in my style of work. Also, having spent time in, retail, food retail, you do get the ability to, really go talk to consumers in a store behind the cash counter. So I think all of this coupled together, I think customer obsession really is one thing that has guided my thinking, even at Schneider. Now, your customers could be internal customers, they could be external customers, but really thinking from their perspective is extremely important, right? So, for example, in our kind of, B2B org, for example, if we are creating content, it would be for different cohorts, right? You could be creating content for end consumers, you could be creating content for analysts, one could be creating content, channel partners, it could be your employees, it could be analysts. So it's a whole lot of stuff that is happening, right? But your ability to be able to see from their perspective, I think that's what really guides a lot of the thinking forward, right? So content creation is just one part of it. There are many other activities which are being driven around these different cohorts. So I think that's one thing that's really kind of stood with me.
Richa, you have worked on B2C and B2B market both, right? So what do you think? What are the commonalities between both, and as well as there are huge difference. So what are the difference between them?
Look, people buy from people, right? That's really the essence of it. Now there are caveats to it, right? They will buy it, they see value people. Now the scale, the size of the total market, the average ticket size, the size of your deal, the average sales cycle will be different across B2B and B2C. Uh, the real difference, of course, is that B2B orgs typically sell to businesses who are reselling the products, whereas of course B2C sells directly to the end consumer. That's really the right. Now, if I were to draw a panel, a B2B product or service is typically far more complex. It involves a larger investment. It involves a lot more featured selling than B2C products or services typically. And the customer journey sales cycles tend to be very complex and far more longer because of the stakes involved, because of the implementation involved, right? That's the nature of B2B broadly. Now, I take the example of, say, for example, a SaaS company, which is probably, for example, selling an accounting software.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of a software could involve the usage of multiple people, right? So you could have multiple people using it. There are probably some complex product features which are required, which means that the buyer has to really analyze what works for them, right? They'll probably go to 5 other brands to figure out, what features are, what the future product roadmap looks like, of course, what the commercials look like, what's the, customer support of the product. So it's of course a lot more complex in the sense of B2B marketing. Now, translating this to how B2B marketing tactics would work.
Yeah.
One is likely to use account-based marketing. You're likely to use more targeted digital ads because you're talking to this particular cohort. There's a need of having a lot of demand generation, right? So the pipeline is very important for a B2B business. You make a lot of thought leadership content to reach out to specific buyers within an organization. So that's the B2B part of it. Now think that the same SaaS product also has a solution for individuals who, for example, need help with personal finance, right? Now, in the case of selling to the end consumer, the decision making is a little more faster. The individual may not be speaking to 5 different stakeholders before choosing something. They may not be locked into a lengthy contract, which means your tactics vary, right? So you're likely to use more something between targeted versus mass, marketing approach. You're likely to do more promotions. You're likely to deploy influencer marketing. You're likely to deploy more, search and the usual B2C marketing tactics. So, like I said, it has its commonalities and it also has some difference in the way the products or the service is essentially sold.
So how do you stay informed about latest trends and technologies in marketing, and how do you incorporate them in your current strategies for, Schneider Electric strategies?
So I actually have calendar blocks which are dedicated to just, reading, finding out what's happening in different parts of the world, because my role also involves, obviously understanding what's happening in the US, what's happening across Asia, what's happening in the Europe. Are there any regulations which are developing which can impact, what we do from a social media strategy point of view and other, many other things. So reading, absolutely number one priority for me. Number two is active networking. So I do regularly meet a lot of people, both within the organization and outside the organization.
Okay.
I think it really opens up a lot of possibilities, right? And it's super important for me to have an inside out perspective and also a outside in perspective.
Yes.
So both of these together is something that I usually am very cognizant of. The third would be by being part of some, industry forums where you do get to meet a lot of fellow marketers. There are interesting conversations happening. So it's usually a mix of these, couple of things. Now, this can obviously throw a lot of information your way, right? So I take the time to simulate what's relevant, what's not relevant, correct, and to be used, what's to be adopted, what is to be discarded. I think that's also
Very, very important. Yeah. So, and before we wind up this conversation, Richa, I want you to talk for our viewers and listeners. A lot of them are aspiring to become who you are. So, what is your advice for an aspiring marketing professional?
I just have, three things to say here. My number one advice would be, be curious. Try and learn as much as possible. And not just about what you do or what your area of expertise is. Try and find more adjacencies. Try and learn more about, other functions as well, right? Number two, I would say own your career and give it your best. The journey is really for you to curate and shape it the way you want, right? So completely own your career journey. And the third and the last one would be, do the grunt work wherever needed. There are really no shortcuts, right? But if you really go get your hands dirty in something, if you've done something right from the scratch, the amount of expertise that you have is super valuable. And that expertise actually would come in handy even at later stages in your career, right? So do the grunt work.
Superb. I think that's very, very important to have a right attitude at a very initial stage of your career, because this is the time which is, either make or break time of your career. It can define a huge amplified career if your choices are different than others, so it's very, very important to know what is important and what you need to just leave it. So thank you for sharing such valuable insights with us, Richa, and I really had a very good time talking to you.
Thank you. I had so much fun doing this, Deblina. Thank you so much for having me here.
Lovely. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to it. That's all for today. I am Deblina Yogi, your host, signing off until next time.